Hi everyone, welcome to Interviewer Insights brought to you by Career Companion. We're here with Sophie Woollett and she gave us a really good career journey overview. If you haven't seen that, go jump on over and have a look. But now we're going to pick her brain on all things to do with hiring because she does quite a lot of hiring in her job. So for the people who haven't watched the career journey yet, Sophie, can you give us an overview of your job title, your role, and what you do?
My industry is the events industry, the major events and live music, a lot of festivals as well. Basically an operations and event production manager.
Amazing. All right. And then how long have you been in that position of hiring?
Probably almost 8 years. Kind of makes me feel a bit old now, but yes,
Yeah.
I'm almost about 8 years now.
All right. Great. So this will be a really good insights for everyone, which is fantastic. So what I'll do is I'll jump straight into the questions and we can go through them because as our viewers know or listeners, we ask the same questions for every single hiring manager. So our first one would be, would you say that your interviews are more casual or like a chat like we're having right now, or would you say that they're more formal and structured?
The events industry is casual in its whole entire nature. So I can't imagine a formal interview really in my world. So they're all pretty casual. A lot of them will just be some chats on site or something as well. But for bigger roles, more long-term commitments, it'll be a coffee or come in and have a chat. But yeah, not particularly formal.
And how many stages do you sort of put them through?
Uh, Only usually one or two. A lot of the events industry as well is putting yourself in front of people and getting to know them. So a lot of people I interview, I've already worked with a few times. They've been students who've volunteered or people I'd met on other events. So the interview process is usually relatively short because I know what the person can give me already before they come in. Um, and usually I know by the end of the first catch up what kind of role is going to work for them and where they fit in.
Yeah, great. So you technically already have been sneakily interviewing them without them knowing from working with them in the past.
Always. Yeah.
And what are some red flags that pop up to you straight away in an interview process?
Oh, definitely the normal ones like being late and not particularly communicative. Also their passion about the job. Like if it's not there, if they don't really care, if they kind of have other priorities that they're not going to give their 100%, that definitely is always a red flag because in our world, again, it's a full-on industry and you have to give 100%, otherwise you fall behind.
Yeah, great. And with the running late, I mean, would you be okay if someone was running late and they gave you the heads up to say, "Hey, look, I'm stuck in unforeseen traffic or this emergency has happened."
Yeah, completely. I'm not that crazy. I and again I would appreciate the heads up and an apology and this is why I'm late, but here I am and let's start. So yeah, definitely things like that.
Yeah.
Also kind of a green flag.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, because like you said, one of your red flags was poor communication. So if they're
Yeah.
able to communicate that prior, then you're like, well, they're on top of their communication. That's good.
Yeah, exactly.
And one of the big questions that we get a lot is, have you ever hired somebody from a different industry or a different background? For example, you've got accountants who are looking into getting into product management, for example. Have you had anyone that you've hired from a different industry?
Uh yes, it would kind of be a circumstance where the industries cross over a little bit, or some of the skill sets do, especially when it comes to crewing and on-site guys and girls, if they've been in the construction world, and they're used to driving machinery and being on building sites. Um, they've got an awesome skill set to come in and use in events and learn at the events. So I've definitely hired quite a lot of people from that side of things. And then also people who have come from more corporate based jobs where it's maybe they helped out in some events, but not directly in the major events world. So it is hard because our industry does require a really niche set of skills, and it is a lot of who you know and how you work. But to be able to show how your knowledge from your industry can transfer into the events is a really kind of, yeah, positive, because then we end up with people who might have a different perspective.
Yeah, great. And you've answered my next question, which was how do they, I guess, stand out to you versus other candidates who do have the sole experience? But you sort of highlighted it there, really make sure that you're representing, I'm taking it on their CV, what relevant skill sets that they've had, that they've done, and putting that down on the piece of paper.
Yeah, and also why are they moving? Why don't they want to be in that industry? Why do they want to be in this industry? Because again, that highlights the kind of the passion and what's the motive behind applying. So yeah.
And would you say that it would be best to put that, I guess, at the top of their CV, usually where they have a summary to say, hey, this is the why am I applying for this? This is the reason why, and then give a short overview of their relevant experience to the role, or that sort of crossover experience.
Yeah, definitely. Cover letters are always a good thing. They don't have to be long. They don't have to explain the world, but just something simple like, yeah, I was doing this. Here's what I've learned, and I'm really looking for opportunities in this industry now. And maybe these are the things that I want to learn, or these are the things that I want to be a part of, and I want to do that because X, Y, Z. Yeah.
Great. And next question would be, obviously, at either throughout the interview or at the end of the interview, you give time for the candidates to ask you questions. What we always get a lot of people asking, what sort of questions should I ask? And obviously, we've given our opinions on that, but I would love to know what you think are some good questions that a candidate could be asking.
I love people asking about progression and okay, that this is the job that I'm applying for, but what could be next for me? How does that work? How does that look? What's the timeline? Definitely that shows that they're not interested just in taking this job, but that they're kind of looking for a long-term role, and they do want to be a part of the company, and they're not going to, come in for a bit and leave again, and we're going to have to do the whole process over. So yeah, any questions about progression, always really good. And then I do like questions about culture and the environment and in that workplace, and either, yeah, how it works, kind of things we do to maintain the culture. Definitely really, really important conversations to make sure that the workplace stays healthy and diverse and everyone's happy.
That's fantastic, because that segues into my next question, which was, how do you tell if somebody's going to be a good culture fit for your team?
Oh, that's a good question. As being able to, again, in our world, it's crazy, it's full on, you have to be big, you have to be loud, and you have to be really passionate to get anywhere. And I think if you're already in the interview, then you've probably already proven that you're the right type of fit. But being able to just get along easily, I think, not be too standoffish, not be too arrogant, and just show that they're willing to, yeah, be a part of a team, and maybe even highlight some times in the past where they have been a part of a team or they've impacted the culture of their previous workplace somehow.
Oh, that's really good advice, making sure that when you're describing your past experience that you're intertwining how you've worked in a collaborative team and what that sort of culture is. And I think you sort of touched on it as well just before. If they're asking you questions around your culture, then you'll be able to identify whether or not that, it's the right culture fit for both of you. So, no, that's really
Yeah.
good advice. Um, the other main big one, this is a very, I wouldn't say controversial, but a very talked about topic. Do you need your people who work for you to have a university degree to be considered?
Oh, this is such a good question because when I was originally trying to decide what I was going to do, I was so focused on needing to have the right degree and making sure it was going to tick all the check boxes for companies. Um, and my degree, what it did for me was teach me a lot of the foundations and the basics, and give me a really good base to work on, to get into the industry and have a lot of knowledge. But I don't think anyone's actually ever even asked me if I have one. It's always on my CV, it's there. No one seems to worry too much about it. The advice that I got from my dad, who also was a business owner, was if you have a piece of paper, it shows piece of paper degree, it shows that you have the diligence, you have the ability to complete something, you can obviously pass those subjects, you are literate in some way. Just having the piece of paper will give you a bonus, give you a little bit of an edge above anyone else. But again, very industry dependent. And in ours, it's very experience and willingness focused. And, I don't worry too much about if people do have a degree or a diploma or if they're studying. It's obviously beneficial to kind of have some of the groundwork in place already, but in 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 events, it's all about like the experience that you get on the ground and what you can learn, and being able to prove that you know it from a physical aspect more than just like on paper. And I think it's really interesting looking at people who have been doing events for forever and have not ever done a degree, maybe didn't even finish high school, um, but who are probably marginally better at their job than someone who did go to uni. So there's not a lot of people I know, really successful people in the industry, who did go to uni and do have a degree. But then there's also plenty of people that did. So yeah, kind of, I think it's very case by case and dependent on the individual.
Fantastic. Well, that's good to know that you're open to both people with degrees and not degrees. And I think, as you sort of touched on there, I mean, as long as if you don't have that degree, if you've had 3 years experience on the ground and you can show that in your CV and, talk to that in the interview stage, then, that's going to be just as valuable in this type of industry. And like you said, it's industry specific. There are some industries where you need to have that degree, and that's why
Yeah.
we're asking this question to sort of find out which industries those are and which aren't. So, no, loved your answer for that. And then my final question, again, a bit of a controversial one as well, is do you take references for the people that you hire? And if so, are they a make or break for you?
So to answer the first part, I always will take a reference. Usually will definitely follow up on it. Sometimes don't need to, don't feel the need to. It definitely not a make or break. And again, very industry specific. It is an industry that's very prone to burnout, overworking, collapse. So I know there have definitely been some people who've come to me looking for work who might not have a really good relationship with their last employer, purely because maybe they were burnt out, maybe they fell apart because they'd worked too much and they couldn't complete the job. And I think again, it's really case by case and knowing what the person's like, what their motives are for being there, and how willing they are to learn and to complete the role. So I think references are important in a way, and definitely important for me to know even that just who the reference is. Is it a past employer? Is it someone that they volunteered for? Is it someone who's known them forever? Someone who only knew them for a year? Um, that kind of thing. And looking at their company and the industry that they're in kind of gives you a good shape of what the reference would be like anyway.
Yeah, great. And for I like how you sort of touched on that, not everyone's coming from a good environment and, having a good manager. Like there's a lot of talk out there that people leave managers, they don't necessarily leave companies. So sometimes, that reference can be quite nerve-wracking when you get to that stage. For those people that haven't had a good relationship or it's been a bit of a toxic environment, would you rather them sort of bring that up at the beginning when they're giving you an overview of their career and their experience, or would you rather them wait until the end where it's the reference stage and be like, hey, look, I could give you a reference from this company, but I left for X, Y, and Z reasons. It was a bit toxic. I don't think they're going to be the best representation of me. Here's an alternative. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it would come naturally. And if it did get to the reference phase and I asked for a reference or we were discussing them, then obviously I'd prefer them to be upfront and learn their side of the story before making a phone call and finding out from someone else. But a lot of learning where they've come from and why they got here in the interview process, will probably hopefully bring something like that up as well. So I think it's definitely something that you don't want to hide, or you shouldn't be ashamed to hide, even if you did do a terrible job at your last job. You can be upfront about it and just explain the situation, and maybe there was a different set of circumstances, then I think that kind of shows the integrity of the person as well.
Yeah, amazing. And on that last point, do you feel we always sort of encourage, if you've had, like you said, delivered a bad job or something went wrong, that you sort of articulate your learnings and how you would apply that moving into your next role. Do you get that a lot as well when people are bringing that up?
Yeah, and again, it's another red flag that turns into a green flag in a way, because you can identify maybe some of your mistakes, some of the things you probably should have done, shouldn't have done, but show that you have the ability to identify them and then make a change and learn from them and use that moving forward. So yeah, I like that now. Red flags into green flags.
Yeah, no, that's great. Maybe we should make a whole new segment. No, look, all of that was amazing. Those are all the questions we have for today. So thank you so much for taking the time to do this segment. As I mentioned, Sophie's had a very impressive career. We've done a whole career journey segment on it. So if you haven't seen it, pop on over and have a look. And Sophie, thanks again.
Thank you so much for having me, and good luck to everyone out there.